Hello, this is mumenjorge. I'm back, and today in this video I'm happy to show you something new, something different, something not manga, something Fallout. So yeah, aside from being a really big manga fan, I'm also a really big Fallout fan, so I'm really excited to be making this video. You know, I started playing Fallout at a really young age. I think I was like 8 when I started playing Fallout. So I first started with Fallout 3. I got it at GameStop for a really low price. I was super excited and shit, but I was really bad at it, so I didn't get that far, and to this day I've never beaten 3. But I'm a really big fan of 4. I have over 1,000 hours on it. Yeah, that game has taken over my life, hostile takeover style, like so many different times. But you know, I couldn't help but feeling that I was ignoring New Vegas, so I bought New Vegas, and now here I am making a video about a New Vegas DLC. Backstory aside, prepare to enjoy an amazing video about the legendary Fallout DLC, Honest Hearts. And I figured for this video we might as well turn it up to 11 and have this review be made by Boone in the flesh, you know?
Okay.
In Honest Hearts, you make your way out of the Mojave and into the stunning Zion National Park, which is located in Utah, by the way. And it's an area in the game that's pretty much largely unaffected by the atomic bombs that are the catalyst of Fallout. And I mean, shit, you can drink the water. It literally won't hurt, so I think it's really hard not to have a really fun time navigating throughout the location of this DLC, because the orange you see and all the mountains and cliffs and stuff, it's really honestly stunning, especially for its time. I mean, let's not forget, New Vegas, it's an old ass game, so for it to look so good, I mean, props. I'm telling you, that soft orange and crystal clear water, you're gonna miss it when you go back to Mojave. Because one thing about the Fallout New Vegas DLCs that is kind of annoying, except for Old World Blues, is that once you beat the DLC, you can't go back to that location, which sucks because the locations are super fucking unique. In this DLC, I mean, we have Utah, so you're leaving the initial city that you start in, which is really interesting. And you also have the think tank in Old World Blues, and the Sierra Madre Casino in Dead Money. It's awesome. But you'll need help getting all the way to Zion, and that's accomplished with the poor Happy Trails caravan. And we all already know that New Vegas's dialogue is just top tier, but seriously, talk to each and every single person in this little cave and do every single dialogue option you can, because they are so goddamn entertaining. I mean, like Deadeye Ricky, I think it's impossible to talk to that NPC and not just actually laugh. It's so hilarious. And once you're ready, you go on a long walk with the Happy Trails caravan, and honestly, you really feel like you fit into this little ragtag group of... Yeah, they're dead. They're already dead. They got ambushed. They're done. So Zion is just infested with the enemies of this DLC. It's a bloodthirsty bunch called the White Legs, which are an opposing tribe in this game, which there are 3 of. But we'll get to that later. Mentioning the White Legs, I think it's good to pivot over to difficulty. While I wouldn't say New Vegas is a very hard game at all, it certainly has its challenges, but I wouldn't say those are really to be found in this DLC. Here's a pro tip from a pro like Boone. Bring the Rat Slayer with you, because you'll be a force to be reckoned with. It'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, this DLC really isn't hard. They give you a couple companions to walk around with, so that's free kills, really. I wouldn't say you're going to be dying a lot, so that's not a concern. I will say, though, that I don't think fun suffers completely because of it, but I do think it is a negative. But hey, let's just be appreciative that the difficulty isn't, like, ridiculous. I mean, why would you even make a DLC where they're, like, where the difficulty is just ridiculous and get all your items taken away? I mean, doesn't that just sound inane? How could someone think of that? Something I find absolutely fascinating, yet pretty frustrating, are the temporary companions in this DLC. So every Fallout New Vegas DLC, except maybe Lonesome Road, I haven't played it yet so I can't speak to it, has temporary companions. They're basically the same thing as your normal companions in this game, like Boone.
Huh?
They function the same way. The thing is, you know, they're only with you for part of the DLC, and you can't take them back to Mojave, which, oh my god, it makes me want to scream. But whatever, there's nothing you can do, except maybe get mods on PC, I imagine. I'm sure there's mods like that. I don't know. I have it on Xbox. You know, they all have their own topics of conversation, like other companions that you can have with them. It's pretty interesting, but I mean, damn, man, they can't chill with you in the Lucky 38. What's even the point? I say that especially because Joshua Graham is one of those companions, and Joshua Graham, I would say, is really the meat of this DLC. And I'll be honest, when deciding what DLC to buy first, I did go with Honest Hearts because of the reputation I heard about Joshua Graham. But I mean, what a backstory this guy has. He was the first legate of Caesar's Legion, and he actually led the first war for the Hoover Dam. But he fucked up, and he's now sentenced to execution. He was set on fire and thrown in the Grand Canyon. But for our favorite virtual Mormon, this was just a half measure. In his own words, I survived because the fire inside burned brighter than the fire around me. All of this earned him the title of the Burned Man and a fear in the hearts of the Legion. And I mean, doesn't this all just make this dude sound like perfect boyfriend material? I mean, like the perfect companion in the game. Let's move on to our second temporary companion. The ultimate bro of the Zion follows Chalk. Chalk is part of a tribe called the Dead Horses, which is actually led by Joshua Graham. The Dead Horses are one of two tribes that you help out in this DLC. The others are the Sorrows, but I'm not quite ready for them yet. Follows Chalk is a curious little guy. I mean, he's curious about things that the other tribe members are scared of. The Dead Horses are actually scared of exploring pre-war buildings and would never even think about going somewhere like the Mojave. But Follows Chalk actually has ambitions to leave the Zion and go to the Mojave. This makes him interested in the courier's exploits, and you can tell he has an admiration for the guy, or girl, depending on what you choose. He uses a 45 auto as his weapon of choice, and that's actually a weapon that's new to this DLC. And this super sleek, stylish weapon is just standard of the Dead Horses, and of our boy, Joshua Graham. The next temporary companion is Waking Cloud, which is the midwife of the smaller tribe in the game, the Sorrows. I'm gonna be honest, I don't have much to say about her. Your time with her is really brief, and she just has like a pretty simple backstory about her family being killed, and Daniel, the leader of the Sorrows, keeping it a secret so she can be on her game. Which, it's very interesting, but you're with her for so little time, I mean, it's just... And this brings me to the topic of Daniel, which is the ideological opposite of Joshua Graham. Joshua leads his tribe sort of in a little bit of an aggressive, more offensive than defensive type of thing, and this leads to a lot of death, and probably a culture of war in their tribe, and that's not something that Daniel wants to replicate in his tribe, but to put it simply, I think Daniel's wrong. In a world like Fallout, you can't just retreat. You can't just run. At the end of the day, it's a video game. Weird argument to make, I know, but you have to be offensive. You can't just run, and that's what Joshua Graham thinks too. The way I saw it was that in a world like Fallout, where laws are no more and the world is really just fucked, you have to stand your ground. You can't just run and let people run all over you, and you have to take the Joshua Graham mentality. I think that surrender and retreat is just too much of a risk in a world like Fallout, and while Joshua Graham's view of killing the Whitelegs as just a chore for his religion, a religious chore, it's pretty twisted and sick, yeah, but I think it's just a symptom of Joshua Graham being such a conflicted, complicated person. I think this DLC fucking beautifully shows the conflict inside both Daniel and Joshua Graham. I mean, one is a violent, revenge-seeking man, and the other is a peaceful, yet prideful man, I would say. I mean, he claims all this fucking forgiveness and retreat, but then he doesn't want to tell Waking Cloud that her family is dead so she can really zero in on the mission. I mean, come on now. I would honestly say their whole conflict really is the brunt of the story, because a lot of the missions in this DLC are just sort of, so find Joshua Graham, he asks you for a favor, then you meet up with Daniel, he asks you for a favor, decide how you're going to end this DLC, who you're going to side with. So I pretty much just skipped over what those specific quests are to focus on the general narrative, and while I don't want to discuss the ending yet, we will pivot over to gameplay. More specifically, let's talk about weapons. So first, I really want to talk about Salt Upon Wound's Power Fist, probably my favorite weapon in New Vegas, and also the 45 family of the auto and the submachine gun. What fun weapons to use, man. I mean, just think about roaming the Mojave with your big power fist, with Veronica, and you're just mowing people down. It's wonderful. The kill cams are going to be just crazy, so I highly recommend. There's also some more conceptual weapons in the game, like you have a war club, which has some really, really good upgrades at the gun runners, and also you have a Yao Guai gauntlet, which is basically a power fist out of a Yao Guai, which is a mutated bear, by the way, his fist, so that's pretty nice. And you have like a Mantis's forceps blade, so it's pretty raw. I would say on the other hand though, the clothing is pretty subpar. A couple standouts, like the tribal armor is pretty good. Joshua Graham's armor is great. Always rocking that shit. Daniel's is okay. He has a sleek hat. I think my hat is sleeker. I think Boone just got a really cool hat. I think I just give the weapons and items from this DLC a 6. There's a couple standouts to be sure, but I don't know. I think the other DLCs beat it by a lot. But I do have to give props where props are due. I did feel significant power boost after this DLC. I mean, I like to think that I went from a wasteland wuss to a post-apocalyptic pussy, so that's pretty good. But seriously, guys, use Salt Upon Wound's Power Fist. It is so bad.
I love the Power Glove. It's so bad.
Speaking of Salt Upon Wounds, he's the leader of the White Legs, and he's the main antagonist of this DLC. But honestly, due to the focus on Daniel and Joshua, I would say he's very understated and frankly, pathetic. Maybe there are ways to conversate with him or even confront him, but in my specific playthrough, I just saw him at the end, he was on his knees surrendered, so not much of a character there. In all fairness though, I think if the courier and Joshua Graham showed up to my camp, I'd surrender. If I couldn't run, I would surrender because those motherfuckers, they got that dog in them. They got that dog meat in them. That sounds horrifying. So, I think I'm ready to finally discuss the endgame of this DLC. So, after assisting Joshua and Daniel on a couple of menial tasks, you basically have to be the mediator for these fussy babies. Since this is my channel, mumenjorge, I'm going to discuss a specific route I went down, so you're going to see how things went down on my Xbox. As you can probably guess from this video, I went with Joshua, did not bother going with Daniel, and I'll explain my reasoning now. So pretty much, I wanted to look at it with a very strictly moral and objective point of view, from an outside point of view, looking over at it. Pretty much I just decided because it was a video game. So I figured if you went with Daniel, retreating, how's that going to be fun? So if you go with Joshua, you get to have some action. It's going to be a fun time, so I went with him. But on a real note though, I do agree with Joshua. I think Daniel's too calm and too complacent for this world, for the Fallout world. So if you decide to help Joshua, he becomes your temporary companion, the final one of this DLC, and you basically go from camp to camp, running and gunning and just destroying everything in your path. And to me, that's just what Fallout is, man. It's perfect. You just have some really fun gameplay, you have some tunes blasting on your Pip-Boy, sadly not in any of the DLCs, because you can't have your radio on in the DLC, which is just sacrilege and should be a crime, but whatever. Anyway, you finally reach Salt Upon Wound's camp, which is the final camp, and he's there, kneeling, waiting for his fate. I decided, rather than to let Joshua go further into the darkness, that I would execute Salt Upon Wounds myself, the courier. So with a swift blow, that was all she wrote. Basically, as soon as that happens, this DLC ends. You get a slideshow, which is just like the end of the game, showing you what all the characters are up to, which is what I'll discuss now. I could do a narrator voice, but I'll spare you all the embarrassment. So in my specific playthrough, False Chalk decided not to explore the Mojave, but instead to stay with his tribe, and the curiosity inside him died. The Sorrows won, but their innocence is lost, and Daniel himself is pretty lost. He doesn't like this. This victory though, it did get to the heads of the dead horses, because years later, fighting would break out between the Sorrows and dead horses, and they would just become just as bad as the White Legs, I assume. That was my interpretation. And damn, what a fucking bleak ending I got. My god. Did I do the wrong decisions, guys? I mean, Jesus. But I guess Fallout New Vegas is kind of like that. I mean, you can have a good ending with a companion, and their ending side will still be like, they're never heard from again. So, who knows? Pretty good ending aside, I am a little frustrated with how fast I got to it. Because among friends, I'm a notoriously slow gamer, and I always take years to beat shit, or I never beat shit. But dude, I beat this DLC really fast. Like, I did pretty much everything. I'd say maybe 3-4 hours, maybe less. I don't know, it's very short. It's a very short DLC, but it is very sweet as well. I say come for the locations and weapons, and just sort of ignore the low difficulty and shortness of it. And I must say, it was super fucking sweet to be spawned right in front of a little box that had a shit ton of unique loot and just general loot from this DLC. So thank you Obsidian for doing that. Very, very good move. I think I'm going to give this DLC an 8.5 out of 10. really good. I highly recommend it. I do. And I just hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it came off how truly, truly passionate I am about Fallout. And, as I sometimes forget to do, please, please like and subscribe. It would be doing me a massive favor, and you would be super cool. Or we could do this the hard way. Boone says to subscribe to mumenjorge. Thanks for watching. I survived because the fire burned. Fuck. I survived because the fire. Fuck, man. In his own word. Fuck. In his own words, I survived because the fire around me. Fuck me in the fuck.